meeting.
All right.
Okay, welcome everybody to the Heart of KC Nursing, American Holistic Nurses Association local chapter meeting. I am excited to welcome Sharon Birch. I've known Sharon for a while. If you've been part of AHNA, you know Sharon. She was in the office for a while, so very excited to have her today. The 7 tricky problems that keep holistic nurses from growing a thriving business and what you can do to solve them is going to be our topic tonight. So this is a high engagement, hands-on CE activity. Participants will learn how nurses can solve or prevent the problems that most often keep them from growing a thriving business. So Sharon has been a successful nurse entrepreneur since 1984. Now her mission is to show nurses how to grow thriving businesses that they love. Sharon has been a member of AHNA since 1994, and she has served as the holistic nurse practice specialist for AHNA from 2016 to 2019. Where she directed AHNA's Integrative Healing Arts program and was instrumental producing AHNA's regional self-care conferences. Sharon is the AHNA Eastern Kansas chapter leader, and she will be the nurse planner for the AHNA annual conference in 2023. Sharon lives in Lawrence, Kansas, and is the founding CEO of Liberated Nurse Entrepreneur. She also serves as the executive director of Awakening to Grace, a nonprofit organization that provides holistic nursing continuing education to help nurses own their power to make the world a better place. So super excited to have Sharon join us. And before we get started, we'll just take a moment to get centered and present. So we will be ready for her presentation. So I am going to actually go off video here. And I'll just have everyone just get relaxed and centered, and an opportunity just to kind of put the day's worries away for a moment. Just take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Just breathing out all the stresses, the worries, the anxiety from the day. And just take an opportunity to focus and be present. Take another deep breath in. And out. Bringing in peace and calm. Just bring yourself back into the room and open your eyes, and we'll get started. All right, Sharon, I will turn it over to you. And again, thank you for being with us this evening.
My pleasure. I'm ready to go then, and I'll bring it back to you, Rhonda, at the end.
All right, sounds great.
Okay, so get my screen up. Can you see my screen, everybody?
Yes.
Okay, good. So just to review, and everyone can hear me all right, yes?
Yes.
Okay, and I can't see the chat, so Rhonda, there's going to be a few times when I'll pause and I'll look at the chat, but otherwise I am not seeing it.
Okay.
So Rhonda, if you see somebody raising their hand or, something like that, just let me know.
Okay, I'll do it.
Asking a question. Okay, thanks. So we're going to look at these problems that are common that nurse entrepreneurs have. And my intention is that by the end of this hour, you'll be able to identify at least 3 things that nurses can do to solve or prevent the problems that most often keep them from growing a thriving business. So here are the top 7 nurse entrepreneur problems. I've looked at a lot of different sources, and I also looked at my own experience and the experience of the nurses that I coach. And this was, the top problems. So let's look at those. Number one is negative self-talk. I wonder how many of you might have experienced that if you're an entrepreneur, if you're thinking about being one. And I'd love it if you'd like to just put your responses in the chat, because I will look at those later. And it's great for me to have a sense of your feelings and your experiences. So negative self-talk is number one. Doubting yourself could be part of that. Being unclear about business concepts and structures. Being afraid that your business is going to be a source that causes you to lose time and money, and maybe even lose respect from your family and friends. Feeling like marketing is stressful and that you're inauthentic when you market. Not having enough money coming in, needing to take loans to pay yourself, lying awake at night, stressed. So I would like to look at I'm going to look at the chat. I don't see anybody responding. Oh, here, good. Here's one. Thinking about going down this route. I've been a stay-at-home mom for part of 10 years. Okay, so you're here because you're wanting to learn and about the common problems and how you might prevent them. That's great. Anybody else want to share an experience with these problems or another one that has plagued you? Oh, I see a few more. I see 11 responses, but it's not forward. It's not. Oh, finding my niche. Okay. And someone else relates to the negative self-talk. Good. And unclear on the concepts and structures. Okay. Thank you. So I'm going to share with you some mind saboteurs that are a part of the problem of that negative mindset. And I've put a character, like a name and a little cartoon with each of these, because I've found that it's helpful for us to think as concretely as we can about these different voices in our heads. Okay. So the first one, the one that I find most common, in fact, I would probably say 100% of entrepreneurs, myself included, have felt this from time to time. So this Finn, the fraud, has thoughts like, who do I think I am trying to coach people? Oh, who am I to share something of value? I don't really know what I'm talking about. I don't know how to run a business. Okay, why don't I just get a job? Maybe I should do this on the side. Or no one's ever going to buy my program. I'm so kidding myself. Is there anybody here that's had any of these kinds of self-talk? You can just say Finn if you want to in the chat, if you can relate to this. All right, I see a few coming in. That's great. Now, here's another one. Probably the number two is Oscar Overwhelm. So with the Overwhelm saboteur, it can be either like, I'm just going to dive in. I'm going to do so much work. I'm really going to get a lot done. And we can be very ambitious for a while. But then also the downside of that is we can keep taking on more and more until we just can't do it all. We're overwhelmed. Another side of this archetype, or this saboteur, is the procrastinator. Okay, so we have great plans, but maybe before we dive in, we'll just watch a little of our favorite show first to kind of get in the right mood, or we'll just take care of this stack of papers that has been here for a month and we really are tired of looking at it. You know, we'd be much more productive if we start there first. that can be functional in some cases, but often it's just procrastination and another form of our fear preventing us from really focusing on our work and taking action that will be effective. So has anybody experienced this one? You can type in Oscar if you want to, if you've noticed yourself either overworking or taking on too much at once, or procrastinating. All right. Now, this is a great one. This is one of my favorites, honestly. Perfect PJ. So she's always making another revision, to her program, and delaying rolling it out. She doesn't want to be embarrassed, or maybe she is embarrassed about her marketing message. And she has a inner critic that's saying, like, what would they think of me? What if this tarnishes my reputation with my professional colleagues, for instance? What if they think it's silly what I'm doing? Or I need that perfect pitch before I go out and talk to a lot of people. Okay, so this perfection saboteur can take a lot of different forms. And it's a tricky one because, of course, we want to show up and be excellent and provide excellent service. And those things are fine. Where it comes into undermining us or pulling us back from making progress is just that, like, it can feel like we want to look good, we want to feel good, we want to prove something sometimes, but it's holding us back from just taking action. And businesses require daily dedicated action. Okay, so that's the perfection one. Then we have No Time Nancy. Very busy, either with a full-time job, too busy to start a business, or she started her business, but she's working countless hours. Okay, there's never enough time in a day. She has lists of to-do lists, and she lays awake at night thinking about what needs to be done and how to do it. Okay, so if you feel like sometimes you have No Time Nancy directing you, would you put that in the chat? Say Nancy. And the last one was Perfect PJ. You could say PJ if you relate to her. We usually have more than one of these. We also have Priceless Pam. Anything to do with money, making money, or handling money, or asking for money is uncomfortable when she's around. And she feels, she really feels timid or and holds back about asking for money. She's more comfortable, for instance, giving her services away or charging something extremely low. Okay. And at the same time, she's afraid that if people don't pay her more, she's going to end up losing everything. Okay. And Pam is another one that often thinks, I better get a job before I lose everything or before it's too late. So put in the chat if any part of this saboteur is sometimes roaming around in your mindset. I think as holistic nurses, we pretty much all probably have a little bit of Pam in us, because of course we're altruistic and we want to be benevolent, and that's where our ethics are. So coming to face that there's also some fear in charging what our services are worth. That we'll get into that solution here in a little bit. Now we also have nicheless Natalie, and her marketing messages are a little vague, and she can feel that. She has trouble nailing it down, exactly who she's serving and what she's doing for them. Okay, and she's thinking about one niche, but then maybe she thinks about another one. She bounces around. She has a lot of ideas, but she hasn't nailed it down yet. Okay. And sometimes she puts off talking to people that she could serve and getting her services out there because she's just so confused about who to approach. So put in Natalie in the chat if you can relate to her, the conversations that she has in your head. And then the last one I want to share is Low Tech Tyler. And Tyler doesn't like technology, really doesn't want to use it. They're drained by the thought of learning tech stuff, and they only get so far before they get frustrated and quit. Okay. And their thinking is, oh, I'm afraid I'll make mistakes that can't be fixed, or I just feel frozen like a deer in the headlights when I try to read the instructions of technology, different platforms and software and scheduling and, making PDFs or doing email newsletters. All of that is just too much. So if you have a version of Low Tech Tyler going on in your mind, would you put Tyler in the chat? And I think I'll pause here and see what kind of saboteurs are amongst us. Okay, we've got Finn, several Finns, several Oscars, Nancy, PJ, Finn and PJ, Pam, a bunch of Pams. Okay, and I'm a Pam. I have Pam in me sometimes. I always want to be generous. I don't want to leave anybody out because I want everybody to have, access to my service. And don't take me wrong, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. And I think I want to say that's part of our nursing ethics that we want to keep. We just also want to make sure that we are valuing ourselves, that we're getting paid. And there are some ways to do both. And we've got a Tyler too. Okay, thank you, everybody. So all that mindset, negative mindset stuff is, it's one problem. It's also, as you can see, there's different problems within that big one. So I gave you 7 different mindsets that can show up. So there were 7 right there. But now I want to go into another big category, which is often nurses lack business education, period. And then when we look around to get business education, we often find that the mentors and coaches sometimes, well, usually they don't understand what a nursing license is. They don't understand that how we are limited by what we can offer to people and what we can do. They don't understand how we could jeopardize our license. And so that is a piece, okay, that's often lacking in business education. Then there's also, I've already addressed our nursing ethics, that those are something for us to be proud of and to always uphold in our business as well as in our other roles in nursing. And know that our ethics set us apart from most of the rest of the business world. And that's a good thing. And then there's also our personal viewpoint. So ideally, when we look for business education, well, I'm getting into solution. Let me hold on. Our problem is that we lack business education that honors our nursing license and all the aspects of that, honors our ethics, and honors our personal viewpoint.
Sharon, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I think somebody's trying to get into the meeting, and since you have,
I let Jody in. She's the only
Okay,
one I
good.
saw.
Okay, good. Sorry, go ahead. I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
No problem. Welcome, Jody. Glad you're with us. Yeah, the last one, our personal viewpoint, you've probably noticed this as nurses, we have a different education than most people, and we have different work experiences and life experiences. So we often have a different view on things than the average person in the public. And if we're a holistic nurse, that is even a little different than the bulk of nurses. So yeah, so it can be a problem to have business education that honors these things. And the way that can show up is that we're thinking, gosh, I need help from finding my best idea all the way through to making it into a business and all the parts in between there. How can I get clients who are willing to pay for services that aren't covered by insurance? Why am I not getting clients? I don't understand marketing. And things like, how can I protect myself with clear contracts and financial systems? Okay. So I would love to pause right here and hear a little bit about your top business problems. I'll open up the chat so I can see. What are a few of the top problems that you're facing right now in your business or in thinking about starting a business? Who would like to venture a comment? You can put it in the chat if you like. Okay, lacking the business background. Thank you, Maria. Anybody else? Okay, well, if you think of something you'd like to share, just go ahead and put it in the chat anytime. So let's solve and look at how to prevent those problems, okay? You know, I promised you a very hands-on interactive workshop. And so I want to, during the rest of it, I want to give you some education about solutions and also help you actually solve some problems in your business. So you might be thinking about what those could be. Okay, so the first problem set that we talked about were our saboteurs, our mindset saboteurs. And so the solution to that is to face them. That's the first step of it. And embrace them. Now, you might be surprised to know that Harvard says that 70 to 80% of success comes from how we handle our mindset. And actually, that should have been business success. It was a business type of article. 70 to 80%. That might be surprising to some of you. It was surprising to me when I first heard it. So it won't help to, try to just tell our saboteurs to go away or ignore them, try to block them out of our mind somehow. That just doesn't work. And I think as holistic nurses, we understand that probably better than most people in business do, because we understand that it's when we bring our whole self to what we're doing, that's when we feel best. That's when we perform best. That's when we learn and grow best. So my approach to business is for myself and for the nurses that I coach, is to help us face our saboteurs and actually listen to them, actually say, what do you need? Because each of them represents a part of us, a part that might feel insecure or knows that we don't have all the education we need yet, that we need a little more education or we need a little more support before we go out on a limb too far. So there's, success comes from taking measured steps that we need to keep moving forward, but yet we don't want to take a leap off the edge of the cliff, right? So when we feel fear because we see the cliff ahead, that's not just something to say, oh, forget it, you'll just fly when you get to the edge. That is, that's one way of looking at it. But the way I think most nurses tend to look at it is, I want to be prepared. I want to know what it is that I need to know. And so we need to listen to our saboteurs, not let them stop us, but just notice that they're pointing to an unmet need that we have. A need for security, a need for support, a need to have more competence, more skills, that kind of thing. So we can get support, human support, from a coach, mentor, and peers that are also nurse entrepreneurs. We can also connect each day with inspiring and energizing people and ideas. Those things help to keep the saboteurs balanced and not stopping us. And we can also activate our strengths and introduce our strengths to the saboteurs. So I have, just because I believe in this so much, I've made little cartoon characters for each 7 strengths. Each one can has a description like the saboteurs did. And by the way, I'm going to give you in a handout the description of the saboteurs and then the description of the strengths too, and the slides to the whole presentation. You'll get all that when you complete your course evaluation. Then I'll send the handouts to you by email. So having a name and an image for our strengths can help us call that strength forward. And we can actually introduce the strength to the saboteur and have them talk. Like the strength can say, what do you need? You know, I'm here. I've got your back. I've got you covered. And it might sound silly or like make-believe, but I think if you try it, you'll find it can really help, especially if you do this in a relaxed setting, like the one that Rhonda gave us at the beginning of the workshop, where we relax, where we can do some breathing, we can see these parts of us, and then we can have them talk with each other. You can be very amazed what powerful things can come forward that are just right to help us stay on track. So another part of our strengths is our innate energy. And each of us has an energetic blueprint. And this theory has been developed by many, many people. My mentor, Roger James Hamilton, has put it together in this format and calls it the Genius Profile. And he based his work on the I Ching, the ancient Chinese energy profiling of the I Ching. And you know, if you haven't heard of I Ching, you've probably heard of traditional Chinese medicine, the 5 elements, feng shui, all of those things come from the I Ching. And so in the handout you'll have a link to a free quiz. If you'd like to go to Roger's website, do the quiz, it will tell you which of these 4 energy blueprints is yours, okay? And one is Dynamo Genius. That's the little green fish here. And people with the dynamo energy have lots and lots of ideas. Others think of them as visionaries. They're innovative, and they're really great at starting things, but maybe not so good at finishing them. I've listed a few examples here of each of the energies. And, you know, I don't know these people, but Roger Hamilton, who made this system, pulled out the inventors and the movie stars and things that are there, the popular public figures. And I pulled out the examples of the nurses based on what I know of the energy blueprints and also these nurse leaders. So Dynamo is the idea. It has lots of ideas. Blaze, Genius, just loves people, loves connecting people to each other, it's very warm and caring. Tempo is very smart with their senses, their physical and senses, and also with the sense of timing. Okay, very smart with timing. And then the Steel Genius is very smart with details. They can crunch numbers, look at spreadsheets, figure out very complex, detailed processes, know how to they have a refining energy, because they can take what all the other energies do, and then they can look at the spreadsheets and the results and give feedback to the rest of the team about where to refine. Okay, so it's the system is complementary. It's the purpose of it is for all of us to honor our energy and our genius, no matter what it is, because there's a role for every one of us. Okay, that's the idea, a role for every one of us. And by honoring ourselves and what we bring to the table, the system gives us a chance to honor others and what they're bringing to the table. Okay, and see how we can collaborate. So this is in your handout as well. I think I'm going to pause and see if there's any questions and see how this is landing with you so far. Questions, comments? Okay, well, you can be shy for now, but I hope that you'll speak up here when we get to an exercise in a minute. I understand that. I'm an introvert normally, so when I'm on Zooms, a lot of times I hang back and don't talk too. But now this part, whoops, I went too far. So this part is where we're going to have some hands-on experience. So the other set of solutions I want to share tonight is about getting business education that you need. And, the Harvard study showed us that 20 to 30% of business success comes from taking the right actions in the right order at the right time. And how are we going to know what those are, without education? None of us are born knowing that, unless we grew up in a family of entrepreneurs and business owners. Then it's not that we were born with it, but we sort of learn it by osmosis, by being around the conversations and maybe even having mentors within our family. But my hunch is, if you're here at this workshop, that's probably not you, and you are probably seeking more business education. So I'd like to point out, when you look for business education, I recommend that you seek a type that is evidence informed. And of course, as professional nurses, that's part of our mandate, isn't it? When we're working with individuals, we're mandated to use evidence-based practice as much as we can. And similarly, when we work with groups, it's best if we look for evidence-informed practice. That's the term that is used with groups and designing programs for groups. Okay, evidence-informed practice. If you haven't heard of that term before, you can, of course, Google it, and I've given a source of information about it. It's a common term in community health and nursing and other places where we're working with groups. And, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you're going to be working with an audience, a population, not just individuals. The only exception for that, and this does happen sometimes for nurses, in some cases, in rare cases, you could have one very wealthy individual who wants to be your only client, and you are there, you're providing a service for them. Maybe you're traveling with them, and they're, they have the ability to pay you for that. In that case, you're going to be using evidence-based practice. But in all the other cases, it's going to be evidence-informed practice that you're looking for. Okay. And that goes right along with your business education. So in my experience and in working with many nurse entrepreneurs, their number one business problem is they don't have enough customers, or they have customers, but they don't pay enough. Okay. And so we're going to look at that situation for the rest of our time tonight. Let me check into the chat and just see if I've missed any important comments. Okay, Paige has an interesting comment. needs commercial, not marketplace, health insurance to cover special needs. Okay, so that I think you're saying that's a concern and a problem for you. When I ask about problems, don't want to be a business person or run a business. Okay, that's your barrier. You want to spend time working with people, not doing it admin work. Okay, got it. That is also Paige. Okay, Paige. I want to address that in the workshop, and I'll do my best to address any questions or problems that people are experiencing. So let me just. Yeah, looking at that with you. Paige, do you want to come on? And let me stop sharing for a minute or pause it. There we go. And would you like to say anything about that?
Well, just about the two things is the concern about, not wanting to work for myself, being concerned about working for myself as far as benefits. And to at least the perception that, I've never wanted to do the admin side of things. So why would I want to start a business? That sounds like it's going to be more of that and less time for what I want to do, which is working with people. So I love the idea of being a nurse coach, but the idea of starting a business is not appealing to me. It's scary to me because it's an unknown. I don't know about business. So that's probably the bigger barrier there.
I get that. Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you can look. Like there's a lot of times there's one barrier, and then past that, there's another barrier that's even a little tougher. Sometimes the first barrier kind of keeps us from even looking at the more scary barrier, doesn't it? Yeah. So thank you, Paige. So there's a couple different ways you can approach that. And if I was going to go deep with you as a coaching session would be one thing, but right here in this situation, I'll just suggest that you don't have to do the administration. You can partner with others. Not that they're your business partner, but that you delegate those admin things to someone else. Because you remember when we looked at the different geniuses, some people actually love that admin stuff. They don't want to do the people stuff. I know, but the thing is, people who love people stuff can't believe that anybody would, be the opposite, but it's true. Okay. And people who love the admin, like the spreadsheets or getting the bills paid or, pay whatever, those people, a lot of times they don't really love the people stuff. They can do it, but it doesn't give them excitement. Okay. Or fulfillment as much. Maybe they love people, but they just have a gift. They have a genius in another area. So I think that I think that there are a lot of nurses that feel like you do, Paige. And I think we're going to see collaborative groups of nurses come together where maybe 3 or 4 practitioners who love the people part can hire somebody to do the admin. And a lot of times that can just be a part-time thing. It doesn't have to be, doesn't have to be a lot of admin for a few coaching practices. So in other words, there's creative solutions that don't have to hold you back. Okay. Thank you for that. Anybody else have a burning question here? Okay, well, share it later if you do, okay? And I'll give us a little exercise now. So, well, let me just ask here in the chat. I would love to get an idea of how many nurses are here right now who have a business? And how many are just thinking about it? So could you put in the chat either have or thinking? And let's see. I would like to know who, yeah. Rhonda's thinking, Maria's starting out, Ashley has, okay. That's 3. Carolyn's just starting. Becky has one. Okay. Private practice. Good. Anybody else? So right now we have 1, 2. Amy has a business. Morgan's thinking. It seems like it's kind of split half and half. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so this exercise is applicable to both groups. The nurses who already have a business will have a little bit more tangible insights to use because they already have some customers. But for those of you who don't have customers yet, you can just use your imagination. Think, plug in who you think you're going to be serving or who you might serve. Okay. So we know that our biggest problem is having enough clients and having them pay us sufficiently. And it all comes down really to just getting clients that are appropriate for us. So how do we do that? It's important to look at our messaging that we use to talk about our business, to email and social media and website, all the different ways that we share about our business. It's important to look at that in parts. And I've broken out 4 main parts here. There are more parts than this in reality, but this is the core 4 right here. And I like us to look at them. So let's start with the red triangle. That is the problem, the client's problem. Okay. Then the green circle is the client's desire, what they want instead of their problem. And for the coaches here, you know, we call that the desired outcome. The black rectangle is what the client is not doing or what they don't know to do. That is sort of like their error or their omission that they don't have. And then the purple cross is the solution, our solution to the problem. Now, pretty much every business mentor teaches these 4 parts. I like to teach it to nurses with kind of nurses mindset. It just helps us remember it. So if we think about their client's problem as their symptom, and then their error or their lack as our diagnosis, that will help us with the biggest challenge of this little puzzle here of figuring all this out. You see how a yellow line between the client's problem, client's symptom and our diagnosis. That's because we tend to mush those 2 things together. Or we even sometimes don't think about the symptom. We're thinking more about we think the problem is our diagnosis. That's our viewpoint on the problem. And it's important to keep those 2 separate. Okay. I guess the other thing I could share is that the symptom, it's like maybe the thing that they're in pain about. Juliet just came, so I'll admit her. Good. That's not, their pain is not the real problem. We know there is a problem that's causing their pain or their distress, their lack. But in their mind, their symptom is the problem. Okay. So let me just give you a more concrete example. So let's say the person wants a romantic partner. That's their desire. And they think their problem is they can't trust men. Okay. So that is, in their mind, that's their problem. Now, if we are trained to work with this problem and help people with this problem, we might have a different view. We might diagnose the problem as being that there's a childhood wound there around trusting men. Okay. And then our process to help the person heal that, that's our solution. And maybe our process, depending on our skill set, we might have energy work that will help the person. We might have tapping, EFT. We might have past life regression, or we might have art therapy or movement therapy. We have so many different tools to bring, and those help us provide a solution. Okay, it's our process. You notice I have a circle, a yellow circle around the bottom two shapes, and that's because our diagnosis of the problem and our solution are going to be unique to us as an entrepreneur. I bet if all of us here in this Zoom, if we all did this kind of work of helping people who want a romantic partner and can't trust men, if we all did that kind of work, I would imagine that we would all have a slightly different viewpoint on what the problem was and give it a different diagnosis. This childhood wound, that's very general. We'd probably all have a more specific thing, and we'd probably all have a slightly different process to help that person heal their symptoms and their problem. And that's what makes us each unique. And that's also what makes clients be attracted to us, okay? Because we're different maybe than somebody else who also does similar, helps people with similar problems, but we have our own way of looking at it and our own way of solving it. Let's look at another example. So this example, the client wants to lose weight, and they think that their problem is they can't control their eating. Okay. But if this is our specialty, we know that it's not a lack of control. It's that they don't know something about blood sugar. And in this example, it could be other things too. But let's say from our training and our lens, we see, oh, this person doesn't know about how blood sugar fluctuations affect their food cravings. And maybe there's other factors they don't know about, how their metabolism works and how different foods metabolize, fast and slow. And there's a whole body of knowledge there that we can bring in. Well, I'm getting a little bit into the solution. We have a process that we can coach or educate and support that person to solve that problem. Okay. And it's not the problem. Usually it's not the problem that the client thinks. But here's the key. When we're doing our marketing messages, if we talk about these other three, the green, the purple, and the black, it's not going to attract our ideal customers. It's only when we talk about what they think the problem is that it's going to be effective and attract the customers. Okay. So that's a little, might not be immediately obvious. Most of us like to talk about this black box, the diagnosis. We want to talk about, oh, if you're having, if you want to lose weight, you need to learn about, how the different foods metabolize and how your blood sugar works and so on. People don't care about that really. The only people that care about that are people who already know they have a problem with their blood sugar. Then they're going to want to listen. But you'll miss the people who are really looking for help and who would be willing to pay for a coach or educator. You want to use the potential client's own words about their symptom, because then they'll recognize that you are the one or one of the ones that knows what they're dealing with, understands it, and could potentially help them. So I want to pause there and see what questions we have about that. Okay, who has questions about that? Okay, so we're going to get into the exercise part. Maybe you'll have questions then. Because I'd like to invite you to take out a piece of paper and something to write with or draw with. You can use these shapes that I've used. You can use different shapes, doesn't matter. You can, however you want to do the exercise, but you want to have 4 parts of your paper, and you want to think of your audience and the problems that they're looking for solutions for. Problems that they are keeping them up at night. They feel agitated, they're worried, they're motivated, you know, to get help and pay for help with the problem. Think about how that is in your audience that your business relates to, and write that in the red triangle or in the section for the client's symptom. Sometimes it's easiest to start with that one. Other times it's easiest to start with their desired outcome. Okay. Start with one of those two. And when you've got that, then go to your diagnosis of what you believe the problem is. And remember, you might be wrong. When we have a hypothesis or a diagnosis, then we check that with the client before we lead them in that direction. That's part of our nursing process. But you have to have a place to start. This is part of the nursing process. We come up with a diagnosis of what we think the problem is, or the lack of education, lack of support, lack of skills. And then last, you'll fill in your solution. Okay. So who would like to share something? Who's in business now that has clients and would like to share a problem?
Sharon, I do have a question.
Okay.
So, and kind of along the coaching, and something that I had somebody mention is to be careful getting into like the dietitian world. So what has been your experience? So for example, I gave my client symptom is they're overweight. Their desire is weight loss. The diagnosis could be a number of things. It could be obesity, but it could be body image disturbance, or, you know, whatever. And the solution might be, you know, finding a healthy diet, doing some exercise and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
What has been your experience with maybe a scenario like that and it not crossing over into what could be considered, well, that's a dietitian's job, not a nurse's. But we've been doing that kind of, as nurses, have been doing that type of coaching for a long time prior to dietitians even coming on the scene. So if you can kind of enlighten me on that, because I've heard kind of mixed things about getting into that type of, when you talk about that particular situation.
Thank you, Rhonda. That's such a great question. I appreciate you brought that up. So when I used to work in the office of AHNA, this and I would field all the questions that would come in from nurses about their practice, either direct care practice, educator role, community health role, entrepreneur role, all that. And when I first got this question, I knew I had an answer that I thought was right. But in that office, I could just go ask Terry Roberts, the executive director. She's a nurse and she's a lawyer. And she was the director of the Kansas State Nurses Association for a long time before she became the director of ANA. So I knew she'd have a very credible answer. Okay. So I'm going to share with you her answer. She said, nurses have been doing that for a long time. And this would apply to massage therapy, nutrition education, and other things that we have been in our skill set, in our license. She says, just because another profession rises up to fill a need, nurses could have been actually sort of niched in all these places where there's now all these other professionals. We could have claimed all that territory, but we didn't. So now there are other professionals have risen up to fill the needs. But that does not take away from nurses' ability in their license to do those things. Nurses are like grandfathered in. It's still part of our practice. We're still covered. If we were, if they were those basic things. So you don't, now if it's a brand new thing that, let's say acupuncture, new to our culture, it's not going to be included. We're going to have to, make sure that our Nurse Practice Act would cover it. And let me also say, just because we can do massage or we can educate about nutrition, it doesn't take away our responsibility to have additional specialized education in that area. Okay, we're still liable for that. We can't just take our basic nursing education and think that that's enough to coach or educate sick people, in nutrition by itself. We do need to have some extra education and show that we're keeping up our that competency with continuing ed as well.
Okay, good. I'm glad you clarified that because that was my next question. Would continuing education in those areas suffice, or would you, have to get college credits necessarily in some of those areas?
It doesn't have to be college credit
Okay.
or an academic program.
Okay.
It could be continuing ed. It could be CE programs. It could be a certification. It depends on, the complexity of the skill partly, and the level of high risk of the population. Like if you want to do aromatherapy on newborns, for instance, you're going to want to have some even if I don't even know if you'd want to do that, but I'm just bringing in a situation where there would be a high risk population. So you'd want to make sure that you have the kind of education that you feel is solid, that's going to inform you. And in the event that there would be an adverse situation and you would be called into accountability, that you would have that training and that certificate, that you could show that you had been prudent, you hadn't jeopardized the person's health because of your lack of training. How about another question? Anybody else? Okay, then I'm going to just continue on. You can use this exercise at your own leisure. So I have put together an evidence-informed roadmap to guide nurse entrepreneurs, because there are stages of business development. just like there are stages of human growth and development, there's stages of business growth and development. And this is another area that I don't think, I don't hear very many business mentors talking about this. In fact, most of the things that I see online are promoting steps of business development that are really appropriate here at the stage 3, the scale stage. And that at that stage, people are already making $100,000 or more. They have 100 clients. And why is this, the place that people are marketing their education for? It's because people that are already at that level of business, they have a cash flow that they can afford to buy mentoring, and they have more experience, so they're easier to teach. And the marketing methods and business methods at that scale stage are more sexy. They're more glamorous and exciting. And so people are attracted to, purchase programs that teach them those kind of skills. The truth is that at the beginning stage, when you're preparing to start your business, you want to also have some idea of what to do, but it shouldn't cost you, it should hardly cost you anything. You're not making money yet. You don't want to risk a lot of money. And so it's most appropriate for you to have guidance that costs you very little at that point. And then, and to increase what you invest in your education as you go. So the way I have designed what I offer is I have free information for the people in the prepare stage. I have low cost information for people at the prove stage, and then a little higher level of information, and not just information, but mentoring for the growth stage. Because by the time you get to the growth stage, you have some cash flow, and you need, if you can, have a person who can guide you that's been through the stages of development. So now, in some cases, that's what I would say for the majority of people is the best way to go. In some cases, people are ready and ripe, and they're ready to jump in, and they have the right conditions. Maybe they have a savings account. Maybe they've already left their day job, their main job, that kind of thing. In that case, then hiring a mentor or coach and paying for an evidence-informed business education can be a good investment, because they can start you from the beginning and you can cut down a lot of the trial and error and the time it takes to have trial and error by having the guidance from the beginning. So I just want to encourage you to face and embrace your saboteurs in your mindset. Get support from peers and mentors. Stay focused. Don't let yourself, if you really want to do a business, you can, and don't let yourself just be pushing a rock up a hill. Get the help you need so that you can have a business that has momentum. So I'll wind up with giving you some resources for business education and support that are designed for nurses. The first one is the National Nurses and Business Association. It's a wonderful group. They have an annual conference every year. This year is in July. Then there's the Society of Nurse Scientists, Innovators, Entrepreneurs, and Leaders, SONCL. Both of those organizations, there's a membership fee and then benefits for the members. And then some free groups that you can start with are Anna's Nurse Entrepreneurs Chapter, the Nurse Coach Connection, and my group, the New Directions for Nurses. Those are all on Facebook. And then I have a few other business resources here for you from my two businesses. The first one is I offer free group coaching the first Tuesday of every month. You can get on the notification list for that, where we send you the Zoom link by just sending an email to my email address there. We also have a do-it-yourself business starter kit course, and it's $1, and it's available at our website. And it's really quite extensive. It will help you get through the prepare stage and started a little bit into the prove stage, where you are proving your business idea. And then I also, as I mentioned, I have private one-to-one coaching and mentoring. So the CE for tonight is provided by holisticnursingce.com. And that's the end of my presentation. I will put this link in the chat for you, so you can just click on it to get to the course evaluation. And you can either then take the evaluation right away tonight, or save that link so you can take it later. It's a short evaluation. Once I receive that from you, my team will send out your certificate and handouts within one business day. And that is the end of my presentation. So who has any comments you'd like to share? And I'm interested in your takeaways from tonight.
That was excellent, Sharon. Thank you so much. I think the resources that you have provided for all of us, incredible. I'll be checking those out. So a lot to think about. I don't know if I'm ready to jump in quite yet, but anytime that I have an opportunity to, find out more, I'm always in. I thought once I got my nurse coaching and holistic nursing, I would do it. And all those saboteurs you were talking about, I'm all of them. I am absolutely all of them. So, but no, thank you. I appreciate you taking time to join us. Did anybody else have any questions or comments?
Thank you. Oh, yeah, somebody would like me to go back to the resources page. You betcha. I'd be happy to do that. And this will be in your handout too. All the slides will be in your handouts. So there's two resources pages. Do you want this one or the next one that has my links? I think it's this one. Okay, gotcha.
Sharon, I would just like to, again, thank you so much for your time and for the presentation. It was extremely helpful, very welcoming, which I am all about. I actually have seen the gamut of business opportunities to coach nurses, and I have been in the back seat because I was so put off by this one experience. And of course, I won't share a name with you, but it was so refreshing that you provided us with this information tonight. And I, like Rhonda, will definitely check out some of these resources. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
You're welcome, Carolyn. Yeah.
Thank you.
I see a couple more things in the chat. Let me see. Oh, okay. You're welcome, everybody. Thank you for inviting me. I've really enjoyed being here tonight.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Jody, did you have anything to add as far as chapter business?
I can't think of a thing tonight, so
Okay.
I very much enjoyed your presentation too, Sharon.
Thank you.
Yes, it was great. As far as chapter business goes, I am still looking for a face-to-face meeting place. And Paige Stonerock, I've appreciated all of your suggestions. I just have not had the opportunity to kind of follow through on those. So I am hoping that we can meet maybe in the next month or so. I know summer is I know is a really a non-busy time. There really isn't. We say, oh, summer's busy, and then school starts, and then we get into some other things. But I would like for us to meet in person. Jody, I don't know, is St. Joe's charging now, aren't they?
Yes,
Yeah.
I don't know of a place where we can go just in the space, just to have a space offered to us at this point.
Well, I know of a couple of suggestions, and I don't think it would, we can meet at a coffee shop, and I think they would maybe let us reserve a table. It wouldn't necessarily be like super private, depending, it could be. So I'm kind of looking into that, and I think Paige, where was it, Waldo, that you said there was a tea room in Waldo?
Yeah, sorry, I have somebody here helping me with computer stuff, and so that's the only reason I'm off camera right now, is that I'm multitasking. But yes, it is Emily's French Tea Room in Waldo, and it's also the Holistic Institute that they've started there, and their goal is to provide classrooms and community meeting spaces for holistic health resources in the community. So they have offered, they have said, this is what our classrooms right now are for. At this point, they aren't charging for that. But I have also not gotten calls back from Emily on other meeting things. It's just been hard. She's been traveling a lot. So I'm not sure how much of it is that and how much of